Hey guys, tonight we step softly into a marketplace that hums with the warm breath of dawn, somewhere deep in the heart of 18th century Kumasi, capital of the Ashanti Empire. The air is thick with the perfume of palm oil, charcoal, and fried plantains. Bare feet patter over packed red clay as vendors raise awnings and brush sleep from their eyes. A goat wanders past a stack of yams with no real agenda. You follow slowly behind, eyes adjusting, senses stretching like the limbs of someone not quite ready to start the day. You probably won't survive this. Not because it's dangerous, but because surviving a day here requires the kind of social dexterity most modern humans just don't have. You'd be outwitted by a 5-year-old selling cola nuts before breakfast. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and what time it is where you're listening from. I love seeing how far and wide you all are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into the Ashanti court like you've wandered into someone else's dream, where umbrellas the size of canopies shade nobles in gold-threaded cloth, and drums throb with layered rhythms that aren't quite meant for dancing. You feel a little underdressed in your sandals, but no one seems to notice. Or rather, they notice but don't comment. Which in this place, means you're being watched very carefully. The palace grounds are more of a sprawl than a building, dotted with courtyards, mud brick structures, and open-air meeting spots shaded by ancient trees. The royal court isn't just a throne and a crown, it's a hive of scribes, diplomats, advisors, healers, and that one guy who only speaks in proverbs and somehow always eats first. As you walk, you notice small, deliberate gestures. A woman kneels briefly beside a pot, not to clean it, but to signal deference. A boy hands over a wrapped parcel with both hands and his eyes lowered. These aren't just manners, they're communication. Every movement here has meaning, and you've entered mid-sentence. Near the palace gates, your eyes are drawn to a carved figure standing silent and still, barely visible unless the light catches just right. It's not a statue, it's a guard, draped in fabrics dyed so deeply indigo they almost shimmer black. Around his neck, a string of Goldweights hangs like a necklace of stories no one dares tell out loud. Historians still argue whether the Ashanti court was more ceremonial than administrative, but what's clear is that performance mattered. Not just for show, but as a coded language. A well-timed silence could carry more weight than a paragraph of flattery. And here's the odd part. Despite the riches around you, gold leaf woven into stools, rings the size of teacups, and embroidered cloth that probably took a year to stitch, what really strikes you is the calm. This is not a court built on frenzy. It's built on rhythm. Like a river, slow but insistent. You step into a shaded courtyard and hear the soft clink of metal against wood. A scribe is organizing what looks like dozens of tiny figurines, frogs, birds, tortoises, each one no larger than a walnut. They're not toys. They're Goldweights, and they're the heartbeat of trade here. You crouch down and realize, this isn't just accounting. This is storytelling in miniature form. The scribe notices your interest and picks up a crocodile-shaped weight. This one, he says without looking at you, reminds us not to trust smiles with too many teeth. Quirky? Yes. Inaccurate? No. In this world, metaphor walks hand in hand with currency. Every Goldweight isn't just a measure, it's a proverb, a social cue, a warning, sometimes even a personal joke. There's one shaped like a mother-in-law's tongue. That one doesn't need much explanation. As the sun creeps higher, you catch snippets of conversation floating across the courtyard. Not loud. Never loud. But constant. Someone mentions a cousin who married too quickly. Another person mutters about the price of smoked catfish going up. These aren't just chats. They're strategic dispatches. Gossip here is a medium of power, a way to shape reputations, settle debts, and sometimes ruin someone's month with a well-timed metaphor. A royal linguist, one of the king's closest advisors, strolls by, his staff carved with an intricate bird biting its own tail. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The staff speaks for him. That's the first real lesson you absorb here. Words don't always travel by mouth. Sometimes they ride gold weights. Sometimes they hide in carvings. Sometimes they rest in silence, waiting to be understood. You lean back against a cool mud wall, the sun now filtering through a woven mat roof. A group of traders enters the courtyard, their robes fluttering like sails. One drops his pouch of gold dust. It spills like pollen onto the ground. No one scrambles. No one laughs. They just wait. Because even dust has its dignity here. You begin to understand why people call this place a city of weights and whispers. Gold is weighed, yes, but so are people, reputations, stories. And sometimes, if you listen carefully, you can feel yourself being weighed, too. The traders brush the spilled dust gently into a tight pile, using tiny bundles of straw bound with string. You watch closely, fascinated by how something so minuscule could command such reverence. A boy, barely 12, produces a set of gold weights from a leather pouch. His hands are steady. He could probably out-haggle most CEOs. Each weight he sets down carries a little personality, a turtle with legs tucked in, a bird mid-flight, a farmer with a hoe slung across his back. They look like trinkets at first, but they are calibrated with astonishing precision. Some modern scholars still marvel at the consistency. Certain sets were accurate to within a grain of rice. Others wonder if the storytelling function of the gold weights was more important than their numerical precision. Historians still argue whether traders trusted weights or reputations more. You scoot closer, and a soft rhythm unfolds. Weight down, dust added, nod exchanged, next item. The traders don't shout or boast. They negotiate in measured tones, always watching. In this market, losing your temper is far worse than losing a deal. It marks you as reckless, and in a city of whispers, word travels faster than horse hooves. A woman steps into view, balancing a basket of dried hibiscus and baobab pods. Her wrapper cloth is cinched high, patterned with swirling suns. She doesn't speak until acknowledged, another unspoken rule, and when she does, it's with a proverb. Something about a monkey climbing a banana tree only to find it belongs to someone else. You're not sure what it means, but everyone else seems to find it hilarious. That's another thing. Here, humor doesn't always sound like laughter. It might sound like silence. Or an arched eyebrow. Or a sudden interest in adjusting one's headscarf. You've got to be fluent in subtext if you want to thrive. You trail behind the traders as they move toward a sunlit corridor lined with carved wooden panels. Each panel shows a different scene: two men arguing over a fish, a crocodile swallowing the moon, a child feeding a lion through a fence. These are part warning, part record, part public gossip made permanent. Some of these carvings are decades old. A few might be centuries. And no one touches them without permission. You pause at a panel showing a goldsmith melting dust into an ingot. His hands are oversized, exaggerated on purpose. The message is clear: the man who works with gold must have great care. But your guide leans in and mutters with a grin, it also means he owes someone more than he says. That's how stories work here. They don't die, they just shift shape. You begin to notice that nearly every trader carries a pouch of weights, yes, but they also carry something more elusive, a network. People greet each other with nicknames, inside jokes, half-finished parables. Relationships are the real currency. Gold just makes things official. A soft bell chimes in the distance. It's not timekeeping in the Western sense. It simply marks a change in rhythm. The morning market is giving way to the midday court audience, a time when grievances are aired, decisions made, reputations boosted or bruised. You follow the current of movement like a leaf caught in a gentle eddy. In the royal courtyard, a stool is placed at the center. Not a throne, no gold spikes or animal pelts. Just a curved wooden stool, raised slightly off the ground. It's the symbol of authority, but not because it's flashy. The power lies in the fact that no one else dares sit there. The Ashanti, or king, hasn't arrived yet, but everyone acts as if he has. A cluster of drummers begins a low, steady beat. It isn't music, it's message. The rhythms mean something specific, if you know how to hear them. Some linguists can translate the drums almost word for word. Others claim it's more poetic, more like tone and mood than syntax. Historians still argue whether drum communication followed a formal code or evolved like slang, flexible, regional, and deliciously imprecise. Meanwhile, gossip is the background static. You overhear a vendor whispering about a noblewoman's new textile pattern. Not scandalous, just noted. In a few hours, someone else will be wearing something similar. Or will refuse to, out of quiet rebellion. Reputation control here doesn't involve press releases. It involves patterns, pauses, and where you sit at lunch. You duck into the shade of a side alcove, where a young apprentice scribes names onto small scraps of animal skin. Not paper, too fragile. These names will go into the court record. One name, though, he writes 3 times. You ask why. He shrugs. That one, the spelling keeps changing. Then he smiles like that's the most normal thing in the world. You wonder how many identities get quietly rewritten like that, and who benefits when they do. Across the courtyard, a man arrives carrying a basket not of goods, but of carved Goldweights shaped like human ears. You blink. He sets them down reverently. To remind us, he says, that some things should only be heard once. Whether it's a proverb, a secret, or a mistake, well, that's left to interpretation. You linger near the man with the Goldweight ears, wondering how many secrets those tiny sculptures have absorbed over the years. He arranges them in careful rows, each one unique, some with elongated lobes, others curled as if catching a breeze. One even has a tiny gold fly resting on it. You lean in and he whispers, that one listens, but never acts. A wait for the passive observer, ideal, perhaps, for someone hoping to remain invisible in court proceedings. The court gathering has no megaphones, no podiums. Voices rise and fall in waves, some clear, some coaxed out like shy birds. A woman in indigo speaks about a boundary dispute between yam fields. Her argument is framed entirely in metaphor, involving crocodiles, cracked calabashes, and the betrayal of overly curious goats. You try to follow, but give up around the 3rd goat. Still, you get the gist: land, pride, inheritance. And everyone is listening. Not passively, but intently. Because today's yam quarrel might be tomorrow's marital alliance or trade embargo. The Ashanti court didn't need iron bars or walls. Gossip and social memory did the policing. One of the elders leans forward, tapping his Goldweight gently against the stool's leg, an unspoken, wrap it up. She bows her head, steps back, and without missing a beat, the next speaker steps forward, a griot. His voice is a velvet drum. He doesn't just talk, he chants, drawing a line from the present back to the ancient past. He recites names you've never heard, Suma, Kobe, Bempong, but he says them like they should be obvious. Like listing Beyoncé, Elon Musk, and your Uncle Reggie in the same breath. These are figures of folklore, history, and village gossip all blended together. Historians still argue whether griots distorted events or preserved them with more fidelity than any outsider ever could. A rooster crows somewhere in the distance, and you realize the sun has shifted dramatically since you arrived. Time here feels less like a straight line and more like a coiled bracelet, flexible, elegant, prone to looping back on itself. You step into a narrow street behind the market, where the goldsmiths work. Here, the air smells different, metallic, with faint undertones of charred wood and shea butter. You pass a man fanning a small clay furnace with a foot-powered bellows. The gold he melts is dust-fine, the color of ripe millet. Every movement he makes is calculated, too slow and the gold hardens before shaping, too fast and it bubbles, loses purity. He hums as he works, some ancient lullaby with no clear beginning. Maybe it's for himself, maybe for the gold. A small boy sits beside him, etching tiny patterns into a mold, spirals, crocodiles, even a crescent moon wearing a grin. For the storytellers, the goldsmith says, gesturing at the mold. So their weights speak even when they're silent. You watch him pour liquid gold into the mold. It sizzles like raindrops on hot stone. He doesn't flinch. And it hits you, this is as much ritual as it is trade. The gold here isn't mine just to be spent. It's shaped to hold memory, crafted to whisper ethics. Each weight becomes a micro-monument. One of the molds bears a curious image, an elephant sitting on a stool too small for it. You ask the boy what it means. He shrugs. When power grows too big, even the throne is uncomfortable. Not bad for an 11-year-old. You make a mental note not to underestimate any small child holding molten gold. Nearby, two women barter over a strip of cloth dyed in the most absurdly vivid blue you've ever seen. One pats the cloth lovingly, explaining its dye came from a sacred indigo pit watched over by a family of blind cats. You raise an eyebrow. Cats? The other woman grins. Not blind, just picky. They only nap next to honest dye. Whether or not you believe in feline fabric guardians, the colors shimmer like twilight on a riverbank. The conversation swerves. Now they're arguing about whose uncle told the better harvest joke. The older woman quotes a tale about a yam so large, it fed 7 weddings. The younger replies with a counterstory about a monkey who refused to pay his weaver, only to end up wearing leaves. You're not sure who wins, but they both leave smiling, so maybe that's the point. You drift past a stall selling delicately carved Goldweights shaped like insects. Butterflies with teeth, ants playing drums, beetles with tiny saddles. Dream weights, the vendor tells you. For those who trade in futures and fortunes. He winks. Or nightmares. One piece shows a spider weaving a web shaped like a palace. You pick it up, and he immediately waves it away. That one's not for sale. It's complicated. You nod. You've learned not to push when someone in this market says a thing is complicated. Around the bend, a woman sweeps her threshold with a broom made of split palm ribs. She pauses to chat with a neighbor about someone suspiciously loud mortar pounding the night before. You get the sense this is less about volume and more about what might have been cooked in that mortar. Gossip here is layered like onions, or parfaits, if you're feeling sweet. You pass a shaded garden where a pair of teenagers are sketching weights onto bark paper. Guessing games, they explain. Draw a weight, then the other guesses the proverb. One shows you a drawing, a chicken looking into a mirror. The answer? Even fools admire themselves. You try not to take it personally. You glance upward and realize the breeze has shifted, the scent of roasted groundnuts rides it now, mingled with distant smoke and shea. Somewhere in this layered city, someone is telling a story, hammering gold, or choosing their next proverb carefully. Because here, everything carries weight, even the way you laugh, or the silence you keep. Your feet carry you deeper into the alleys behind the market, where the pulse of the city feels slower but more deliberate. Here, people aren't rushing to sell or buy, they're lingering, sharing cola nuts, murmuring stories, weaving gossip into history and back again. A boy walks by balancing a basket of dried fish on his head, humming a tune that syncs with the rhythm of your steps. He passes without a word, but his tune sticks in your mind like a catchy podcast jingle from centuries ago. You find yourself in the courtyard of a low, ochre-colored building, its walls smooth with layers of red earth and sun. There's a low stool in the shade. You sit. A cat stretches nearby, uninterested in your presence, except to occasionally squint at you like it's evaluating your usefulness to the story. Spoiler, not very. A group of women sits nearby, cracking groundnuts and trading the latest murmurings from the palace district. One of them speaks with particular flair, voice rising and falling like a drummer playing with rhythm instead of force. She says, "Did you hear? The weaver's apprentice came back from Bonoman and claimed he saw a Goldweight shaped like a snake eating its own tail." The others gasp, not because the shape is shocking, but because of what it suggests. "A cycle," one whispers. "Endless." You blink. Is this the Ashanti version of existential philosophy wrapped in precious metal? Apparently yes, with a dash of roasted peanut and friendly side-eye. The Goldweight, it seems, wasn't meant to be a transactional tool, but a warning or perhaps a confession. Historians still argue whether Goldweights were more economic devices or mnemonic riddles disguised as pocket art. A man nearby leans into their circle and adds, "That apprentice also said the Bonoman traders carry salt wrapped in leopard skin now." The women collectively click their tongues. Flashy. You catch the subtext, not elegant, just trying too hard. Even in Goldweight culture, aesthetics matter. Too much glitz, and you might be mistaken for someone with more coin than class. You shift on your stool, and the woman closest to you, wearing a necklace of miniature wooden birds, leans in. "Want to hear the gossip that comes with that weight?" You nod. She grins, then begins, "Once, there was a trader who measured everything perfectly, except loyalty." The story unfolds, a man who weighed gold meticulously but skimped on promises. He swore to deliver millet to a northern chief, took payment in ivory, then blamed the rains for never arriving. His punishment? Not exile. Worse, he was made to listen to the grandmother of the offended party retell the betrayal every morning, at sunrise, for a full year. No one wants to be the star of a bitter elder's sunrise monologue. As the women laugh, the cat flicks its tail and wanders off. Probably looking for a better audience. You rise again and follow a path paved in flat stones, some of which are etched faintly with symbols, spirals, birds, and what might be tiny weighing scales. This wasn't random artistry, it was a breadcrumb trail of ethics. A reminder that values here weren't taught with scrolls or scoldings but with images beneath your feet. You find yourself beside an elder seated on a mat woven from elephant grass. His fingers move slowly over a piece of brass shaped like a coiled lizard. He doesn't look up, just says, "You ever see a lizard watch its tail?" You blink. "Only when it's nervous," you answer, cautiously. He chuckles. "Exactly. This waits for people who can't let the past go, even when it's trying to sneak away quietly." You try to remember if you've done anything worth tail-watching regret lately. Probably. Who hasn't? He tells you that some weights are made in anticipation, not for a sale or a debt, but for a moment when a proverb needs physical punctuation. You don't just drop a proverb, he says. You place it, like a stone in the path. People trip over it, but they remember. Behind him, a young woman is teaching a group of children how to mold wax into miniature forms. "This is the beginning," she says. You shape the wax, then the mold, then the message. Her students range from age 4 to what looks like a very determined goat trying to chew the edge of the mat. One girl is sculpting what might be a lion balancing on a drum. Or a really muscular sheep. Hard to tell at this angle. The teacher gently adjusts the wax. If it makes people laugh, they'll remember it longer. Even if they don't get the proverb right. You nod to yourself. That explains the Goldweight you saw earlier shaped like two frogs wearing hats. A gentle breeze wafts in from the forest beyond the compound walls. You catch the scent of something faintly herbal, maybe neem or burnt sage. A healer is at work nearby, boiling a dark, pungent brew over a fire that pops softly like lazy popcorn. She hums as she stirs, and you notice she wears Goldweights as earrings. You ask if they hold special meaning. "Of course," she replies. "This one," she touches a weight shaped like a gourd split open, "reminds me that inside even bitterness, there's nourishment. Or at least a story worth telling. You make a mental note to adopt that the next time someone serves you undercooked plantains. She lifts the lid of the pot, releasing a hiss of steam. This one's for headaches caused by stubborn relatives. You ask how that differs from regular headaches. She gives you a look. You learn not to ask again. The sun arcs above, dappling the courtyard in patterns of light and shadow. Time here doesn't tick, it sways. You realize that nothing in this world moves quickly for long. Not trade, not storytelling, and certainly not the truth. It's all weighed, measured, metaphored, and then passed along with the faintest smirk. You begin to notice something funny. Everyone here, from children to elders, speaks in metaphors. Someone doesn't say, he's untrustworthy, but rather, he has the eyes of a bird that builds no nest. That's either devastating or very poetic, possibly both. Your brain is slowly adjusting to this linguistic gold leafing. It's delightful, but also deeply confusing if you're just trying to ask where the nearest well is. You take one last look at the wax molds, the whispering court, the braided stories hung on golden loops. And in that quiet moment, it occurs to you, these waits, these rituals, this endless stream of gossip cloaked as wisdom, it all serves the same purpose, to remind people who they are, and how not to behave badly enough to end up as a proverb. You leave the courtyard with the scent of herbal steam clinging faintly to your clothes, like a blessing or maybe a very stubborn mosquito repellent. Your feet lead you toward the part of town where the metalworkers keep their forges hot and their gossip hotter. This is the territory of smiths, casters, and secret keepers. Not that they admit it, but every Goldweight has a tale, and someone's got to be the first to hear it whispered in wax. The path winds past squat buildings with soot-streaked walls and fire-warmed stones. You hear the unmistakable hiss of molten metal poured into a mold, followed by the satisfying sizzle of a cooling form. A smith's apprentice wipes his brow with a cloth so dirty it probably has its own biography. He grins at you with the easy confidence of someone who's just figured out how to cast a tortoise with 3 legs, on purpose. Inside one open-walled forge, an older woman examines a tray of tiny brass figures, each one no longer than your thumb. Some look like tools, hoes, knives, grinding stones. Others are more cryptic. A fish with legs. A snake tied in a knot. A pair of sandals facing opposite directions. She motions for you to sit. You know what this one means, she asks, holding up the knotted snake. You hazard a guess, never trust a snake that moonlights as a rope? She chuckles. Close. It's for people who twist stories until even the snake gets confused. You laugh, but she's already moved on, lining up her weights like little soldiers of moral instruction. She explains how the casting process begins, with beeswax. Soft, pliable, easy to shape. You mold it into the form you want, then coat it in layers of fine clay. Once it hardens, you heat it until the wax melts out, leaving an empty shell, ready to be filled with brass. Lost wax casting. One of humanity's oldest tricks, still alive and humming in the firelight here. Historians still argue whether this method spread here via North African traders or if local metallurgists developed it independently and casually outdid everyone. Either way, you're watching a technique that's changed very little over 1,000 years, and for good reason. It works, and it makes very cute frogs in royal hats. A girl nearby holds up a just-cooled Goldweight shaped like a hand mirror. This one's for vanity, she explains solemnly, as if quoting a grandparent's sermon. You use it when someone's too busy admiring themselves to notice they've miscounted the beans. You nod. That's painfully specific. Possibly personal. She adds, we call it the market prince weight. Apparently, it's a long-standing joke, handsome traders who wear the finest indigo robes but forget to pack scales that actually work. One elderly smith once made a Goldweight of a rooster admiring its reflection in a puddle, just for one of these types. Didn't help his math, but at least he walked away stylish. The woman casting beside you lifts another brass shape from its mold, a bird with a backward-turned head. Sankofa, she says simply. Go back and fetch it. It's not just a symbol, it's a worldview. Mistakes aren't to be buried. They're to be revisited, studied, and carried forward like a particularly annoying lesson plan. You wonder how many of these weights were created not for trade, but as quiet commentary. Some double as miniature poems, pointed ones. Like the tortoise with an umbrella. What's that one about, you ask? Someone slow who still expects royal treatment? The woman shrugs, half smiling. Or someone wise enough to bring shade to their own trouble. Layers, like an onion, or like the excuses someone makes for not paying back a debt on time. You step outside and notice that many of the Goldweights, though tiny, have taken on the tone of the community itself. They're not just functional, they're emotional. Tools of trade, yes, but also tools of memory. You begin to think of them like emojis made of metal. Want to say, I trust you, but only barely? Use the weight shaped like a one-winged bird. Want to signal, I'm onto your nonsense? Try the two-headed crocodile. It looks comical, but the message is deadly serious. 2 heads, 1 stomach. If one eats selfishly, both suffer. A fringe tidbit from a passing scholar in residence, you didn't even know that was a thing here, tells you that certain Goldweights were reserved for private disputes, used not in open markets but behind closed compound doors. Someone might send a weight shaped like a cracked pot to a neighbor, silent commentary on a secret betrayal. Passive aggression in bronze form. Nearby, 2 men are in a quiet argument over the meaning of a fish biting its own tail. One insists it means endless abundance. The other claims it's a warning against overfishing. A third chimes in with, it means your uncle needs to stop bringing up old debts at weddings. Interpretations vary. The deeper you go into the smithing quarter, the more you realize the artistry isn't limited to gold weights. You see fine brass rings shaped like lizards in motion, and spoons etched with entire family proverbs. Even the tongs used to lift molds from the fire are carved with decorative flourishes, fish, birds, even abstract spirals that seem to vibrate under the forge light. And then there's the hush. Because now you're at the edge of the area where weights are cast with stories no one tells outright. Shapes that only appear once, commissioned in secrecy. A lion's paw curled around a broken drum. A mask split neatly in 2. These are weights for debts that were never about coin. You can feel the tension in the air. It's quiet, but not empty. The kind of quiet that hums with meaning. One caster nods to you and murmurs, some weights never touch a scale. You ask what they're for. He replies simply, to remember who we were, before we forgot. The forge behind him crackles louder, like it's affirming the thought. You step back into the afternoon light, head spinning with miniature dramas etched in metal. You're starting to understand that these Goldweights are less like coins and more like very tiny therapy sessions. Portable memory prompts. They don't just represent transactions, they map values, ethics, disappointments, and dreams. The market buzz resumes as you re-enter the broader flow of the city, but something's changed. You look at each merchant's scale now and wonder what little sculpture might be tucked in their palm. A crab for caution? A flute for sweet talking? A key for promises kept? Somewhere in the crowd, someone's definitely haggling with a lizard in their pocket, and it probably has something to say. You keep moving, your thoughts still occupied by the miniature jungle of meanings tucked into those gold weights. The path pulls you toward the edge of the market district, where the perfume of roasted millet and fried baobab cake starts to yield to a cooler, leafier scent, like someone's cooking with crushed herbs and whispers. This is the quieter part of town, the one where courtyards are shaded, stools are low to the ground, and conversations can go hours without ever raising a voice. You slip past a carved wooden gate, painted ochre and covered in symbols you only halfway understand, and enter the world of the elders. Not the robe-wearing ceremonial types, though there are a few of those, but the real power brokers of the city, the gossip weavers. In this part of West Africa, stories move faster than camels. And gossip isn't the guilty pleasure it gets labeled as elsewhere. It's practically a civic duty. You don't just overhear a rumor, you inherit it, polish it like brass, and pass it along with the weight of a proverb. Words travel on the back of ants, someone once told you. You thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Historians still argue whether gossip in this region acted more like oral journalism or communal therapy. Probably both. Some say it even functioned as an early justice system. If someone was accused of cheating their customers or mistreating a spouse, you might not see them dragged to court. You just see them become the main character in every story, joke, and metaphor for a week straight. And in a town where everyone knows who buys fish on credit, that was worse than any fine. You settle beside an elder woman named Afua, who is braiding someone's hair while narrating a tale so calmly you almost miss the sheer drama of it. She speaks of a trader who once weighed his gold with a hollowed-out mango pit. He was clever, yes, she says, but not clever enough to know when to stop. Eventually, the pit rotted, and the weight shrank. His customers noticed. His name became a proverb: don't trust mango weights. No one needs to say his name. Everyone already knows. You sip a lukewarm sorghum drink handed to you by a passing boy. It tastes earthy, like roasted grass and family secrets. Around you, women pluck shea nuts from a basket and roll them between their palms, like they're warming up for the next story. You're starting to realize the gossip ritual isn't all idle whispers. It's structured, almost ceremonial. A typical flow might start with a mild observation: have you noticed Kofi's sandals are newer than his wife? Then comes the proverb-based dissection: a man who polishes his shoes more than his promises walks alone. Finally, the moral: she should have married the calabash carver. He at least had a conscience, even if he didn't have teeth. Laughter, clucks of disapproval, and nods follow in waves. No shouting. No shame. Just smooth, deliberate dismantling. Someone passes around a palm frond fan with an image of a snake eating a yam carved into it. You know what that means? Afua asks, eyes twinkling. You shake your head. It means even snakes have cravings, but not all yams are for swallowing. She lets that hang in the air while the others hum knowingly. A fringe tidbit slips into the story circle. Apparently, in some villages, if a person became too infamous, like a repeat gossip target, they could be gently exiled, not by force, but by being left out of the stories entirely. No jokes. No rumors. Nothing. Their names simply stopped being mentioned. Social ghosting, 15th century style. And the stories don't stop with humans. Animals, spirits, and even Goldweights have their place. One tale features a tortoise who tells two sides of a story, depending on which side of the calabash he's chewing from. Another warns of a river spirit who only drowns people who gossip with bad grammar. That one, you suspect, was invented by a very fussy storyteller. Afua interrupts your thoughts to lean in with a conspiratorial whisper. You know how we know who's lying? You shake your head again. She gestures with her chin toward a man across the courtyard, smiling too widely. His stories never have dust. Real truth has dust on its sandals. He walks too clean. There's a moment of silence, followed by a chorus of low chuckles. It's a shared understanding you can almost touch, like you're all wrapped in the same cloak of quiet knowing. But it's not all critique. Gossip here is also about celebration. A woman announces that her daughter just received a marriage proposal, from a family that doesn't haggle over yams, no less. The room shifts. Everyone leans in. Congratulations are offered with poetic flair. May her love be like hot millet porridge, always ready before hunger finishes speaking. You're beginning to see that this isn't gossip the way most people imagine it. It's a system of values, passed down like recipes. It teaches you whom to trust, how to carry yourself, and why it's never wise to insult someone who owns a drum and knows your nickname. And of course, it's also entertainment. Afua launches into a story about a man who tried to pass off iron shavings as gold dust by sneezing them into his buyer's pouch. He claimed it was powdered blessing, she says, shaking her head. Next week, he had the worst toothache in town. That's what you get for mixing lies with iron filings. The group cackles. You nearly choke on your drink. As the sun angles lower, someone sets out a carved wooden board for a game of aware, but the talking never stops. With every seed sown and move made, stories sneak between turns. A phrase here, a knowing glance there. Everything means something, and nothing is just idle noise. A rooster crows somewhere in the distance. It's far too late in the day for that, but no one seems bothered. Even the rooster's got something to say, Afua murmurs. Probably about that fool who tried to sell a calabash with no bottom. The conversation turns effortlessly to the latest market prices, a midwife's dream about a talking goat, and whether a particular neighbor's sudden wealth is due to blessings, theft, or an unusually cooperative ancestor. By now, you realize that gossip here isn't the opposite of truth, it's one of its delivery systems. And like a Goldweight shaped like a laughing monkey, it holds more wisdom than its surface suggests. You rise to leave the circle, cheeks sore from smiling. Afua calls after you, tell them what you've heard, but walk slowly. Dust remembers every footstep. You tread slowly away from Afua's courtyard, her last words still clinging to your ears like the faint smell of roasted shea nuts. Dust remembers every footstep. And here, in this sun-soaked tangle of trade routes and whispered tales, even the dust has opinions. The alley opens up into a narrow plaza where artisans have spread their tools on woven mats, preparing for the day's commissions. You pause before a man hunched over a tiny anvil. He's not making jewelry, he's hammering gold weights, the kind you've now learned are as much moral commentary as they are measuring instruments. This man's name is Bamba, and he speaks little. But his hands move with a quiet fluency, sculpting minute details into soft metal. A crocodile balancing a pot on its nose. A spider riding a canoe. You squint, unsure whether you're hallucinating or witnessing symbolism so layered it might take years to peel apart. Bamba's workshop smells like singed beeswax and old wood smoke, and for a moment, you just sit and listen to the rhythm, tap, breathe, rotate, tap again. These gold weights, called abramuo in Akan lands, aren't mere art objects. They're math in miniature. Standardized by guilds, passed through families, and guarded like heirlooms. There are even rumors that some were enchanted. Historians still argue whether certain weights were deliberately imbued with spiritual power or just got a reputation after someone weighed gold wrong and vanished mysteriously. One mainstream fact: the Akan gold weight system developed to such a level of precision that it rivaled European metric systems centuries before contact. Some weights were accurate down to 1/10 of a gram. And unlike today's impersonal digital scales, these had personality, tiny sculptures reflecting proverbs, taboos, and family lore. You lean in closer. Bamba is working on a new design, a lizard with a human face, peering into a mirror. You raise an eyebrow. He grins faintly, clearly enjoying the riddle. The man who gossips, he says softly, should know what his own nose looks like. He sets it aside to cool, then pulls out a worn calabash filled with old pieces. He invites you to pick one, any one. You choose a simple turtle with 3 legs. That one's for patience, he explains. But also a reminder, not every limping turtle is weak. Some just walk with caution. Turns out there's a whole visual vocabulary. Monkeys often represent clever tricksters, fun at parties, disastrous in trade deals. Birds may symbolize freedom or greed, depending on how many are shown. 2 birds pecking at the same grain. That's cooperation. 3. That's probably a dispute brewing. A fish with legs? Definitely a warning. Not everything that walks is wise, someone once quipped. You gently return the turtle to its place. Bamba wipes his hands on a cloth that may once have been white, then pours you a gourd of tamarind water. It tastes like tart sunbeams. He points to a series of older weights, oxidized and faded but still unmistakably precise. Those were my grandfather's, he says. He had a weight shaped like a pair of sandals. You wait for the meaning. He said it was because trade means walking. If your shoes are bad, your gold will be, too. You sip slowly, filing that one away. Another artisan down the line gestures to you. She's a woman named Amina, working not in metal but in clay molds. She makes the negative forms into which molten brass or gold is poured, using a centuries-old lost wax technique. Each mold is destroyed during casting, making every gold weight a one-off story. No rewrites, no copies, no Ctrl+C. Amina says something that makes Bamba snort with laughter. You catch only part of it, even the weights gossip when left too close together. Apparently, if someone leaves a few morally conflicting gold weights near each other, say, a fox and a dove, people start to invent backstories. Did the fox steal from the dove? Were they lovers? Did someone misplace their conscience while bartering for salt? It's funny, yes. But it also points to something deeper, the cultural expectation that everything means something. There's no just decoration. If you wear a necklace shaped like a chameleon, you'd better be ready for someone to ask why you're feeling indecisive today. Amina takes you behind her mat to show you a fragment of an ancient mold. It's broken, charred, and nearly forgotten, but she insists it tells a story. We found this near the riverbank. Some say it belonged to a master caster who lost his sight but continued working from memory. Historians still argue whether blind gold weight artisans existed, or whether it's just one of those stories you tell when a design comes out weird but you don't want to admit it. You glance again at the tiny weights, lined up like metaphors at attention. This isn't just about economy, it's morality, philosophy, even poetry. A trading system that judges not only the weight of gold, but the weight of the soul. Someone nearby chuckles and lifts a weight shaped like a goat with one horn. This one's for people who want to pay half now and the rest never. You laugh, and for a brief moment, forget the heat, the dust, and your modern impatience. You start to understand why gold weights were sometimes kept in hidden boxes, only taken out on important occasions. Why children were taught their meanings alongside lullabies. Why some families had collections going back generations, each piece a little moral sermon you could hold in your palm. You thank Bamba and Amina, the artisans of weight and wit, and begin to move again, slower now, more attentive. It's hard not to see metaphor in every puddle, every tree, every pair of squabbling goats. This is a city that teaches you in symbols. And heaven help the fool who tries to outsmart it with counterfeit charm. As you round the next corner, a breeze lifts your tunic, and you feel the first cool whisper of evening. It brings with it the scent of smoked fish and the distant hum of a xylophone. Another story is beginning somewhere. Maybe it's about you. The sun has dipped lower now, casting long shadows over the marketplace's fading bustle. You find yourself drawn to a small gathering beneath a tamarind tree where an elder sits on a low stool, surrounded by children who hang on his every word. This is Baba Kofi, a renowned storyteller whose tales are as much a part of the city's fabric as the gold weights themselves. You settle nearby, the dust soft beneath you, and listen as Baba Kofi begins to weave a tale about a particular gold weight, a tiny bronze figure shaped like a drum, worn smooth from generations of handling. This drum, he says, is more than a musical instrument. It's a symbol of gossip, community, and the invisible threads that tie people together. The drum weight is one of many that carry hidden messages, stories encoded in metal that speak of trust, betrayal, and the rhythms of daily life. Baba Kofi's voice is low and steady, like the heartbeat of the earth, and as he speaks, you can almost hear the drumbeats echoing through time. A mainstream historical fact, gold weights were used not only to weigh gold dust but also as mnemonic devices, helping traders remember complex contracts and social obligations. The designs weren't random, they were visual cues in a culture that prized oral history and communal memory. But here's a quirky twist. Some Goldweights depicted scandalous scenes, like a man sneaking out with a neighbor's wife or a woman gossiping with her friends. These were like social cartoons, a way to warn or mock without saying a word aloud. Historians still argue whether these designs were created as playful jabs or serious moral lessons. You watch the children's eyes widen as Baba Kofi describes how the drum's beat could carry messages from one village to another, signaling warnings or celebrations. It's like an ancient text message, only louder and with more rhythm. You can almost feel the vibrations under your feet. Baba Kofi smiles, noticing your interest. Gossip, he says, is the glue and the grease of our society. Without it, how would we know who to trust? Or who to avoid? You nod, thinking of the last time you heard a juicy rumor in your own life, and how it spread like wildfire. Here, in this place, gossip isn't just idle chatter, it's a vital social tool wrapped in layers of metaphor and meaning. As dusk settles, the market quiets, and the Goldweights gleam faintly in the fading light, you realize you're beginning to see this city through a new lens, a place where every small object carries a big story, and every story is worth holding close. You rise, feeling the cool night air brush your skin, and prepare to wander further into the secrets of these West African Goldweights and the rich gossip rituals that shaped a culture's heartbeat. Night deepens its hold over the market, but the quiet hum of life continues. You wander toward the riverside where the air smells of earth and water, mixed with the faint, smoky sweetness of cooking fires. The rhythmic clink of Goldweights being handled drifts softly on the breeze, like a secret language just beyond understanding. By the firelight, a group of women sit cross-legged, passing around a basket of kola nuts. You settle nearby, drawn by the soft murmur of their conversation and the steady clatter of tiny brass objects being examined. These women are the guardians of social knowledge, the keepers of community memory through the ritual exchange of Goldweights and whispered stories. One of them, Nana Efua, offers you a kola nut with a gentle smile. You bite into the bitter, energizing seed, feeling the slow warmth spread through your body. She explains that in these circles, Goldweights are exchanged as gifts during important social events, marriages, funerals, and disputes. The weight you give isn't just about the gold's value, it's about the message you want to send. A mainstream historical fact here, Goldweights often served as tokens in marriage negotiations or peace settlements, carrying symbolic meanings that could soothe tensions or reinforce bonds. The imagery on the weights, animals, everyday objects, mythic figures, were like coded language understood by all parties. The quirky tidbit Nana Efua shares is a particular Goldweight shaped like a gossiping parrot, complete with tiny, intricately detailed feathers. It was said that anyone who received this weight should be careful with their words, lest their own secrets become the town's latest entertainment. Apparently, some gossip could be as dangerous as any weapon. Historians still argue whether these Goldweights were ever truly punishments for bad behavior or merely playful reminders to mind one's manners. You notice how the women lean in toward each other, voices dropping into conspiratorial whispers as they exchange stories about the last time someone's secret exploded into public knowledge. It's less about judgment and more about connection. Everyone's part of the web, after all. One woman laughs softly, describing a merchant who tried to cheat by using fake weights shaped like frogs, symbols of greed and bad luck. The village shunned him for months, proving that even in commerce, social reputation carried weight as heavy as any gold. You take it all in, the basket of kola nuts, the flickering firelight, the gentle chatter weaving into the night. Here, gossip is an art form, a social currency, and a delicate dance that keeps the community's heart beating steady. You tuck the last kola nut into your pocket and prepare to move on, knowing the river's edge holds more stories and whispers waiting for you. The river beside you murmurs softly, its gentle current carrying stories as old as the land itself. You step closer, feeling the coolness on your ankles, and watch as fishermen untangle nets illuminated by the glow of a nearby lantern. Their movements are deliberate, practiced, and somehow rhythmic, like the steady beat of a drum echoing from the heart of the market. Among them is Kwesi, a wiry man whose hands are as nimble as the fish he catches. He's also a collector of gold weights, a hobby he inherited from his father. As he pulls out a worn leather pouch, you catch a glimpse of tiny bronze shapes nestled inside: a lion, a boat, a pair of intertwined snakes. Kwesi explains that gold weights, for him, are more than just tools, they're storytellers. Each figure represents a piece of the past, a memory frozen in metal. Some weights commemorate historical events, while others capture everyday scenes from village life. One fact you can't help but marvel at: these gold weights weren't mass-produced. Each was handcrafted, unique, and passed down through generations, making every piece a small treasure with its own story. Kwesi smiles and pulls out a peculiar weight shaped like a snail carrying a bag. He chuckles: this one's for the slow talker, the one who drags a story out like it's the last meal. It's a playful jab, but it also serves as a subtle social reminder that patience is a virtue, even in gossip. Historians still argue whether certain weights were deliberately designed to serve as social commentary or if these meanings evolved over time through popular interpretation. Kwesi's favorite weight, he tells you, is the 3 feet figure, 3 human legs bound together. It symbolizes cooperation but also the challenges when people don't move in sync. It's like a group dance, he says. If one steps out of rhythm, the whole performance falters. You imagine the intricate social dances of this community, where gold weights act as silent cues, reminding people how to behave, whom to trust, and when to speak softly. As night deepens, the fishermen cast their nets once more, and you feel the gentle pull of the river's current beneath your feet. The stories embedded in these small bronze pieces ripple outward, connecting everyone in a shared rhythm of life, memory, and community. You rise, ready to follow the river's path into the quieter parts of the city, where the weight of gossip hangs heavier, and the gold weights gleam like stars waiting to be deciphered. You leave the riverbank behind and find yourself in a narrow alley where the scent of fresh spices mingles with the faint aroma of roasting peanuts. The walls are plastered with faded posters, their edges curling like ancient parchment, telling stories of markets past and local gatherings long forgotten. Here, in the shadowed quiet, you meet Ajoa, a middle-aged woman whose reputation as a keen observer and subtle gossip-monger precedes her. She's seated on a low wooden bench, gently polishing a set of gold weights that sparkle faintly in the lamplight. Ajoa explains that the gold weights function like a secret language for women, especially when formal speech might be too risky. Passing a weight shaped like a cat, for example, could hint at sly behavior or secretive movements within the community. Each symbol carries layers of meaning that only insiders truly grasp. A solid historical fact: gold weights were often gendered in their symbolism, with certain designs reserved for men's dealings and others for women's social commentary or domestic affairs. Here's a quirky detail: some weights show animals wearing human clothes or engaged in human activities, like a rooster reading a scroll or a tortoise carrying a basket. These whimsical designs are believed to be playful jabs at human folly, wrapped in humor to soften their critique. Historians still debate the extent to which these weights influenced social behavior or were merely reflections of cultural attitudes. Ajoa leans in, whispering that gossip itself was like a tool for survival, an early form of information management in a world without newspapers or instant messaging. Passing along stories, she says, was a way to protect the community, highlight threats, and even regulate behavior. As she speaks, you notice a gold weight shaped like a pair of lips, full, pursed, and ready to speak. This one, she says with a grin, is a reminder to choose your words wisely, or be prepared for your own stories to travel faster than you think. You catch the soft chuckle of nearby women exchanging similar tokens, their faces illuminated by candlelight and shared understanding. In this quiet alley, gossip takes on a new form, one of coded gestures, subtle exchanges, and the gentle hum of communal life carried in tiny pieces of metal. You tuck this moment away and prepare to move on, deeper into the city's living web of stories, where every whispered word carries weight. Sometimes literally, you step out of the alley into a wider courtyard where the sound of laughter bubbles up like a gentle stream. Children chase each other around mud brick walls, their bare feet kicking up soft dust. Nearby, a group of elders gather beneath a baobab tree, their voices low but animated. One elder, Mama Amina, beckons you over with a knowing smile. She cradles a gold weight shaped like a mortar and pestle, tools used daily in West African kitchens. Mama Amina explains that this gold weight symbolizes nourishment, both physical and social, reflecting how food and gossip intertwine in village life. Here's a well-known fact: in many West African societies, sharing meals was also sharing news. Stories were passed over bowls of fufu and cups of sweetened tea, blending nourishment with information. But here's a quirky detail: some Goldweights depict scenes of food fights or mischievous children sneaking snacks, playful reminders that even in daily chores, humor and light-hearted rebellion had a place. Historians still argue whether these everyday scenes on Goldweights were meant to teach moral lessons or simply capture the rhythms of life. Mama Amina chuckles softly, telling you how gossip often accompanied the pounding of yams, with women exchanging news as they worked. The mortar is like a drumbeat for stories, she says. Every strike sends a message. You listen as she describes a particular gossip ritual where women would use a series of Goldweights to discreetly signal news about visitors, disputes, or celebrations, each weight symbol conveying a nuanced meaning understood by the community. The idea that such small objects could hold so much meaning fascinates you. It's like a secret code embedded in everyday life, connecting past and present through shared experience. As the children's laughter fades into evening, you thank Mama Amina and prepare to follow the winding path toward the city's quieter quarters, where more secrets await under the calm night sky. The path takes you through quiet lanes lined with clay houses, their walls painted in warm earth tones that seem to glow softly under the moonlight. The air is cool now, carrying the faint scent of jasmine and distant wood smoke. Somewhere nearby, a nightingale's song drifts gently across the stillness. You pause at a small workshop where an artisan named Kojo meticulously shapes a new Goldweight from bronze. The soft tap of his hammer is steady and rhythmic, a comforting background sound that blends with the whisper of the night. Kojo explains that crafting Goldweights is a delicate art passed down through generations, combining skill, symbolism, and storytelling. Each piece must be precise, too heavy or too light, and it would fail its purpose in trade. Yet, the designs go far beyond mere function, reflecting social values and shared myths. A historical fact to note: the lost wax casting technique used to make these weights dates back centuries and represents one of the most sophisticated metallurgical practices of the time. But here's a quirky insight: some Goldweights incorporate hidden compartments or double layers, which could hold tiny notes or even miniature charms. Kojo grins, saying, maybe a bit of early spy craft disguised as daily business. Historians still argue whether these secret compartments were widespread or just the work of a few creative artisans. Kojo points out a series of weights shaped like mythical creatures, hybrids of birds and reptiles with exaggerated features. These fantastical beasts serve not only as conversation starters but also as symbols of protection and power in the community. You watch as Kojo polishes a tiny figure of a chameleon, its intricate scales catching the lantern light. The chameleon, he says, teaches us about adaptation and change. Just like gossip, it shifts and colors the truth depending on the situation. The metaphor strikes you as perfectly fitting. Gossip, like the chameleon, changes hue to suit the moment, carrying messages both sharp and subtle. As Kojo finishes, you feel a sense of calm settle over the workshop, the quiet intimacy of creation blending with the soft night air. The stories embedded in these tiny bronze pieces seem to pulse with life, waiting to be discovered by those who listen closely. You thank Kojo and step back into the cool night, ready to follow the trail of Goldweights and whispers deeper into the city's heart. The night's hush wraps around you as you wander into a quieter neighborhood where the glow of lanterns casts dancing shadows on the walls. The streets here are narrower, lined with clusters of woven mats and low stools where neighbors gather for evening chats. The smell of roasted peanuts and spiced tea mingles with the warm air. You settle near an elderly man named Baba Tund, a storyteller renowned for weaving history and gossip into captivating tales. He carefully places a worn Goldweight on his lap, a small bronze figure of a snail with a tiny bundle on its back. Baba Tund explains that the snail represents patience, persistence, and the slow unfolding of stories. A good tale, he says, is like the snail's journey, steady, deliberate, and sometimes surprisingly powerful. A widely known fact is that Goldweights often depicted animals and objects familiar to daily life, embedding lessons and social values in their forms. Here's an amusing detail. Baba Tund chuckles as he recounts a tale of a merchant who once traded a goldweight shaped like a crocodile dung sunscreen, a quirky joke that locals used to poke fun at his eccentric habits. Historians still argue whether these humorous designs were meant simply for amusement or carried deeper social critiques. Baba Tund's voice lowers as he tells you that gossip in this community was never cruel but served as a way to keep everyone connected and informed. Like the Goldweights, stories had weight and meaning. He shares a local saying, "A whispered word travels faster than the river's current." The Goldweights helped regulate this flow, providing a kind of social balance through their symbolism. You notice other figures in the circle exchanging small weights, some shaped like keys, others like pairs of lips, each sparking quiet laughter or thoughtful nods. The night deepens, and with each story Baba Tund tells, you feel more entwined in this gentle web of connection, where every piece of gossip carries a pulse of shared history. You rise quietly, the sound of distant drums calling you onward, deeper into the city's soft heart. You follow the rhythmic beat of distant drums, leading you to an open square where villagers gather beneath flickering torches. The air vibrates with gentle music, a mix of drums, rattles, and soft singing, a lullaby for the night that seems to breathe with the pulse of the city itself. Here, you meet Esi, a young woman who trades goldweights alongside spices and fabrics. She lays out her collection on a woven mat, each piece gleaming faintly in the torchlight. Esi explains that goldweights are more than currency markers. They are a form of storytelling that spans generations and connects families. One historical fact stands out: the Ashanti people, among others, used goldweights not only in trade but also as teaching tools, passing down proverbs and cultural values through their imagery. Esi points to a weight shaped like a pair of intertwined hands, a symbol of unity and agreement. She smiles, saying that in some disputes, these weights were exchanged to signify peace and reconciliation. A quirky tidbit catches your attention. Some goldweights were designed with hidden messages or jokes known only to close friends, turning trade into a playful social game. Historians still debate whether these hidden meanings were intentional codes or simply evolved interpretations over time. Esi shares how gossip, much like the trade of goldweights, helps weave the fabric of the community. "It's like weaving a cloth," she says softly, each thread adding color and strength. You watch as the villagers exchange goldweights, their quiet smiles and knowing glances creating an invisible thread linking past to present. As the night air cools and the music fades into a soft hum, you feel the gentle rhythm of the community settle around you, a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry the weight of stories, friendship, and trust. You thank Esi and prepare to follow the fading drumbeat further, deeper into the quiet night's embrace. The flickering torches guide you to a quiet courtyard tucked behind a cluster of homes, where the faint scent of dried herbs fills the air. You find Nana Kwame, a wise herbalist and keeper of stories, seated beside a low table cluttered with goldweights shaped like various plants and medicinal tools. Nana Kwame tells you that goldweights served as a kind of memory bank for the community, preserving knowledge about healing plants, remedies, and the rituals surrounding them. Each weight, he says, is a seed of wisdom passed down through hands and hearts. A solid historical fact: many goldweights depict items related to health and healing, reflecting the importance of traditional medicine in West African societies. Here's a quirky tidbit: some weights show humorous images of sneezing monkeys or dancing frogs, light-hearted nods to the unpredictability of nature and illness. Historians still debate whether these images were intended purely for amusement or had symbolic meanings linked to disease and protection. Nana Kwame picks up a weight shaped like a mortar and pestle, explaining how gossip and storytelling often accompanied the preparation of medicines. Sharing news about ailments or cures was vital, especially in times when formal healthcare was scarce. You imagine women gathering around fires, grinding herbs while swapping stories, each tale carrying both comfort and caution. He smiles and adds, in a way, gossip was the earliest form of public health advice, wrapped in humor and empathy. As the night deepens, you feel the warmth of this ancient knowledge, preserved in bronze and breath, whispered across generations. You leave Nana Kwame's courtyard with a new appreciation for the subtle power of these tiny objects, Goldweights not just of metal, but of memory and care. The soft murmur of the courtyard fades behind you as you follow a narrow lane paved with worn stones, leading toward the marketplace's quieter edge. Here, the stalls are shuttered, but the scent of dried kola nuts and roasted coffee beans lingers, mingling with the crisp evening air. You find yourself in front of an old merchant named Jabari, seated beside a neat row of Goldweights shaped like various trade goods, yams, beads, cloth bundles, and even miniature canoes. Jabari's hands are steady as he arranges them, each telling a story of commerce, travel, and connection. A clear historical fact is that West African trade networks, especially among the Akan and Ashanti peoples, were extensive and sophisticated, with Goldweights playing a crucial role in standardizing transactions. Jabari grins as he points out a Goldweight shaped like a talking drum, explaining its dual purpose as a musical instrument and a tool for spreading news, sort of the original social media of the time. Here's a quirky insight. Some traders used Goldweights with personalized symbols, almost like a signature or brand, to ensure trust and recognition in bustling markets. Historians still debate how formalized these markings were and whether they ever served as early trademarks. Jabari shares a tale of a clever trader who used a Goldweight shaped like a parrot to discreetly signal when certain goods arrived, using the bird's image as a code in the busy market chatter. You can't help but smile at the ingenuity, gossip and trade, intertwined like threads in a well-woven fabric. As the night breeze picks up, carrying with it the distant calls of night birds, you prepare to leave Jabari's stall, the hum of history and whispered commerce settling softly around you. The marketplace quiets behind you as you wander toward the banks of a slow-moving river, its surface reflecting the silver light of a crescent moon. The gentle lapping of water against the shore soothes your steps as you approach a small gathering of fishermen mending nets by firelight. Among them is Kofi, a man whose hands tell stories of years spent casting lines and hauling in the day's catch. He shows you a collection of Goldweights shaped like fish, boats, and fishing tools, each a miniature tribute to his trade. A well-known historical fact, fishing was a vital part of many West African economies, especially along rivers and coasts, supporting communities with food and trade goods. Kofi chuckles as he points out a Goldweight depicting a fish with an exaggerated grin, joking that it represents the big catch that got away, a light-hearted nod to the fisherman's eternal optimism. Historians still debate whether these playful designs were simply humor or carried deeper symbolic meanings related to luck and fortune. You listen as Kofi shares how gossip flows as freely as the river here, with stories of bountiful catches, bad weather, and rival fishermen passed along with the rhythm of daily work. The Goldweights act like a ledger of local lore, small anchors holding memories of both success and struggle. You watch the firelight flicker over the bronze figures, imagining how these tiny shapes have witnessed countless nights of whispered tales and shared dreams. As the river's soft murmur blends with the night air, you feel the gentle pulse of life along the water, steady and enduring. With a warm farewell, you step away, ready to explore more hidden corners where history and gossip mingle in quiet harmony. You follow the riverbank's winding path until it leads you to a modest village square illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamps. Here, elders sit on low stools, their faces carved by time and stories, exchanging wisdom and quiet laughter beneath the canopy of ancient trees. Among them is Amma, a respected elder known for her knowledge of the community's rituals and customs. She carefully unwraps a small cloth bundle to reveal a set of Goldweights shaped like ceremonial masks, drums, and ritual objects. A historical fact worth noting is that Goldweights often depicted spiritual and ritual symbols, reflecting the deep connection between daily life and sacred traditions in West African cultures. Amma explains how these weights helped reinforce social bonds and moral lessons, often used in storytelling during ceremonies to teach younger generations about their heritage. A quirky detail surfaces as Amma smiles, recounting a story about a particular Goldweight shaped like a mischievous monkey mask, said to represent the trickster spirits that keep life unpredictable and fun. Historians still debate the extent to which these images were used to convey moral lessons versus entertainment in ritual contexts. As you listen, you realize that gossip here functions not as idle chatter but as a vital thread weaving the fabric of community ethics, identity, and memory. Amma's voice softens as she tells you that the Goldweights are not just objects of trade but living reminders of the stories that shape who they are. You watch the elders share quiet jokes and nods, their eyes sparkling with the warmth of shared understanding. As the night deepens, you feel yourself drawn into the gentle rhythm of tradition, history, and whispered tales that ripple softly through the village square. You thank Amma and prepare to move on, carrying the weight of these stories lightly but surely in your heart. You leave the village square and follow a narrow path winding through tall grasses that sway gently in the night breeze. The distant croaking of frogs and chirping of crickets fill the air, creating a calming natural chorus. Ahead, a small workshop glows faintly with candlelight. Inside, you find Kojo, a skilled craftsman shaping tiny Goldweights with delicate tools. He gestures to a tray of miniature bronze figures, animals, household items, and enigmatic shapes that seem to hold secret meanings. Kojo explains that crafting Goldweights is both an art and a tradition passed down through families, blending skill with stories. Each piece carries a narrative, a social message, or a nod to history. A key historical fact: Goldweights were often made by specialized artisans, whose work reflected regional styles and symbolism unique to their communities. A quirky tidbit emerges when Kojo shows you a weight shaped like a sneezing baboon, a playful jab at superstitions surrounding illness and bad luck. Historians still argue whether these humorous images were intended to ward off evil or simply bring laughter in tough times. Kojo laughs softly, telling you that the creation of Goldweights is itself a kind of storytelling, the metal shaping gossip into a form that endures beyond the spoken word. He shares that in the past, these weights were traded not just for gold dust but also as gifts during important ceremonies, binding families and clans together. You watch as Kojo's hands move expertly, each weight emerging from the bronze like a small, tangible piece of community memory. As the candle flickers low, you feel the quiet power of craft and narrative intertwining, a gentle reminder that history lives in the smallest details. You step back into the night, carrying the warmth of Kojo's stories as you continue your journey. The path leads you through a patch of towering baobab trees, their silhouettes like ancient sentinels against the starlit sky. The air is thick with the scent of earth and leaves, the night alive with subtle rustlings. Beneath one sprawling tree, you find Abina, a storyteller whose voice weaves the past into the present. Abina spreads a worn cloth displaying an assortment of Goldweights depicting everyday objects, calabashes, stools, and even woven hats, each symbolizing a chapter in the community's daily life. A historical fact: Goldweights were often designed to reflect the mundane as much as the majestic, illustrating how ordinary moments were valued in Ashanti and Akan cultures. Abina smiles and shares a quirky tidbit: some weights were crafted as visual puns or riddles, challenging the viewer to decipher their layered meanings, turning commerce into a quiet game of wit. Historians still debate how widespread and intentional this playful complexity was within Goldweight symbolism. She explains how storytelling and gossip intertwine here, with tales told beneath baobabs serving as informal records of social events, alliances, and rivalries. You listen as Abina recounts a story linked to a Goldweight shaped like a spinning top, symbolizing the unpredictability of fate and fortune in daily life. The night deepens, and you feel the peaceful weight of stories hanging in the air, as steady and grounding as the baobab itself. You thank Abina and prepare to follow the moonlight further, eager to discover more whispers woven into the fabric of these ancient objects. You step away from the baobab's shelter and find yourself walking along a dirt path flanked by fields of millet swaying gently in the night breeze. The soft rustle of grains brushing together accompanies the distant calls of night birds. Ahead, you spot a small group gathered around a flickering fire, their laughter mingling with the crackling flames. Among them is Ajoa, a farmer who shares tales of harvests, seasons, and the rhythms of rural life. She shows you a set of gold weights shaped like farming tools, hoes, baskets, and bundles of crops, each representing the vital connection between land and community. A well-known fact is that agriculture formed the backbone of many West African societies, and gold weights often reflected this essential aspect of daily life. A quirky detail emerges when Ajoa points to a gold weight resembling a stubborn goat chewing on a farmer's hat, a playful reminder of the small troubles that punctuate hard work. Historians still argue whether such humorous depictions served as gentle warnings or simply light-hearted anecdotes. Ajoa explains how gossip and storytelling were crucial during harvest festivals, where news, advice, and jokes traveled alongside the crops. You imagine the fields alive with voices and laughter, the gold weights acting as silent witnesses to countless seasons of toil and celebration. As the fire's warmth seeps into the night air, you feel the enduring pulse of life rooted deeply in the earth and shared stories. You bid Ajoa goodbye, carrying with you the soft glow of harvest tales and the comforting rhythm of rural history. As you leave the fields behind, the path curves toward a village weaving center, where the faint sound of looms creaking fills the night. Inside a humble hut, you meet Efua, a weaver whose nimble fingers create vibrant Kent cloth patterns that tell stories through color and thread. Efua shows you a collection of gold weights shaped like looms, spools of thread, and geometric cloth patterns, each symbolizing the intricate artistry and cultural significance of weaving. A key historical fact: Kent cloth weaving was a highly respected craft in West Africa, with patterns and colors representing social status, history, and moral lessons. Efua shares a quirky tidbit about a gold weight shaped like a butterfly, which represents transformation and the fleeting nature of gossip, always fluttering from person to person. Historians still debate how closely gold weights were tied to the symbolism found in textiles and whether these connections were intentional or coincidental. She explains how weaving circles were social hubs where stories, news, and laughter flowed freely alongside the rhythmic sounds of the loom. You imagine the gentle clatter of weaving tools mingling with whispered gossip, the weight of stories as intricate as the fabric itself. As the night deepens, you feel wrapped in a tapestry of history, craft, and quiet companionship. Thanking Efua, you step out into the cool air, carrying the rich patterns of stories and gold weights woven into your mind. You walk on, the village sounds fading behind you, replaced by the gentle rustling of palm fronds swaying under a starlit sky. Soon, you find yourself in front of a small shrine dedicated to ancestral spirits, flickering candles casting dancing shadows on carved wooden figures. Near the shrine sits Nana, a spiritual guide who carefully unwraps a cloth bundle revealing gold weights shaped like sacred animals, masks, and ritual objects. A firm historical fact is that spiritual beliefs and ancestor worship were deeply woven into the social fabric of West African communities, with gold weights often symbolizing these connections. Nana explains how the gold weights served as more than just measures of trade, they acted as conduits of memory and respect for the past. A quirky detail surfaces when Nana shows you a gold weight shaped like a frog, believed to carry messages between the living and the spirit world, a little supernatural postman, if you will. Historians still debate how much of the symbolism in gold weights was standardized religious iconography versus local or individual interpretation. As you listen, the low murmur of prayers and stories mingles with the night breeze, creating a calm, reverent atmosphere. You feel the weight of generations, their hopes and fears quietly resting in these small bronze figures. Thanking Nana, you step away softly, carrying the sacred stillness with you as you continue your journey. The night air grows cooler as you continue along a winding path leading to a small bustling market square, now quiet except for the soft footsteps of late-night vendors packing away their wares. You pause near a stall where Ya, a merchant, carefully arranges his collection of gold weights, each one a tiny testament to trade, wealth, and subtle social signals. Ya explains how gold weights functioned as both currency and conversation starters, a way to signal status and share stories about wealth and community ties. A key historical fact: the Akan people used gold weights primarily as standards for weighing gold dust, a central medium of exchange in West African trade networks. Ya points to a gold weight shaped like a pair of clasped hands, symbolizing trust and agreement, the foundation of every successful deal. A quirky tidbit arises as Ya laughs, showing you a Goldweight shaped like a cheeky parrot, said to represent the endless chatter and gossip merchants exchanged during trading. Historians still argue whether some Goldweights were used as subtle social commentary or simply playful objects to lighten the seriousness of commerce. As the last embers of firelight fade, you reflect on how the Goldweights encapsulate both economic function and social storytelling, merging wealth and words in a delicate balance. Ya nods knowingly, reminding you that in these markets, every weight tells a story, every piece a whispered negotiation. You tuck the memory of the bustling market's quiet wisdom into your mind and step forward into the soft night. You follow a narrow trail leading away from the market, the gentle rustling of palm leaves overhead mixing with the distant call of a nightjar. Eventually, you arrive at a small open-air workshop where Adam, a master goldsmith, is softly hammering bronze into intricate shapes by the flicker of lantern light. Adam explains how the crafting of Goldweights requires patience, skill, and a deep understanding of both metal and meaning. Each piece, he says, carries a story or a lesson, hammered into bronze to last generations. A historical fact, the lost wax casting technique used to create these Goldweights was an advanced metallurgical process mastered by West African artisans centuries ago. Adam smiles, showing you a Goldweight shaped like a frog mid-leap, a symbol of fertility, transformation, and the unpredictable flow of gossip itself. Historians still debate the precise origins of this casting technique in West Africa and how it might have spread or evolved independently. You watch as Adam's hammer falls rhythmically, the soft clinks echoing like a gentle heartbeat in the night. He tells you that gossip, much like goldsmithing, is about shaping stories, sometimes polished and precious, other times rough and raw. The workshop feels like a quiet sanctuary where the ancient craft and oral traditions meet in a shimmering dance of metal and memory. You thank Adam and step away under a sky littered with stars, the rhythmic tapping still echoing softly in your mind. The path twists through a patch of fragrant frankincense trees, their resinous scent curling softly into the night air. Here, you meet Amma, a herbalist who gathers leaves and roots under the moonlight, her fingers deft and sure as she explains the medicinal uses hidden in the plants around her. Amma displays a small collection of Goldweights shaped like medicinal herbs and healing tools, each representing not only physical health but social well-being and harmony within the community. A well-documented fact, traditional medicine was deeply integrated into West African societies, where spiritual and physical healing often went hand in hand. Amma shares a quirky detail. One Goldweight resembles a tiny mortar and pestle, but with a comically oversized pestle, a playful nod to the stubbornness of some ailments and the persistence needed to cure them. Historians still argue how much of the symbolism in Goldweights reflects actual medicinal knowledge versus metaphorical or spiritual meanings. She tells you that gossip often carried news about remedies and warnings about illnesses, spreading vital information like a whispered health bulletin through the village. The soothing scent of frankincense mingles with her voice as you imagine a community bound together by stories of care and caution, all encapsulated in these small bronze shapes. You thank Amma and continue along the winding trail, the herbalist's wisdom lingering like a gentle balm on your thoughts. You stroll toward a quiet riverside, the water's gentle lap a soft counterpoint to the night's stillness. Near the shore, you find Kojo, a fisherman mending nets by lantern light, his face calm and thoughtful as he explains the rhythms of the river and its place in daily life. Kojo shows you Goldweights shaped like fish, boats, and fishing nets, each a tiny tribute to the river's bounty and the delicate balance between survival and storytelling. A solid historical fact, fishing was not only a source of food but a central part of social and economic life in many West African riverine communities. Kojo chuckles, revealing a Goldweight shaped like a mischievous catfish, known for slipping through the nets, a cheeky reminder of life's small frustrations and surprises. Historians still debate how deeply fishing motifs in Goldweights connect to spiritual beliefs versus practical daily realities. He tells you how gossip by the river often carried news of fortunes caught and lost, of secrets as slippery as the fish themselves. The river's quiet murmur blends with his stories, creating a peaceful soundtrack for your wandering thoughts. You thank Kojo and follow the riverbank's curve, feeling the soothing flow of history and story beneath the moon's watchful eye. you continue along the riverbank as the stars shimmer faintly above, the water reflecting their soft glimmer. Soon, you come upon a circle of elders seated beneath a large mango tree, their voices low and rhythmic as they recount tales from generations past. One elder, Kofi, gestures toward a set of Goldweights shaped like animals, lions, elephants, and snakes, each embodying virtues, warnings, or lessons passed down through oral tradition. A well-known fact, animal symbolism played a significant role in West African folklore and was often captured in art, stories, and Goldweights alike. Kofi shares a quirky story about a Goldweight shaped like a tortoise wearing a crown, a sly nod to the clever trickster figure common in many tales, who often outwit stronger opponents with wit and patience. Historians still argue whether the meanings assigned to these animal shapes were universal or varied widely among different communities. The elders' voices blend with the gentle rustling of mango leaves, weaving a soothing tapestry of memory and moral lessons. You find yourself drifting in the warmth of shared history, the Goldweights anchoring these stories in bronze and breath. As the night deepens, the elders' laughter and wisdom seem to wrap around you like a comforting shawl. You quietly thank Kofi and the circle, stepping back into the calm embrace of the sleeping village. You move on from the elders' circle, the soft sounds of their storytelling fading behind you. Ahead, a small courtyard glows with the faint light of oil lamps, where Abina, a skilled storyteller, prepares for the evening's gathering. She opens a worn leather pouch, revealing Goldweights shaped like musical instruments, drums, flutes, and rattles, each echoing the sounds of celebration and communal bonding. A solid historical fact, music and oral storytelling were inseparable in West African culture, with rhythms and tales intertwining to preserve history and entertain. Abina shares a playful tidbit. One Goldweight resembles a talking drum with tiny hands, symbolizing how gossip can beat its own rhythm, changing pitch and tone depending on the teller. Historians still debate how much the iconography of musical instruments in Goldweights influenced the storytelling traditions or vice versa. You listen as Abina's voice begins to weave a gentle tale, the cadence matching the soothing pulse of a distant drumbeat. The night air is alive with music, stories, and the unspoken bonds of shared experience. You feel yourself sinking into the mellow rhythm, the Goldweights vibrating with the echoes of voices past and present. Thanking Abina, you step back into the quiet night, your mind humming softly with the music of history. You drift away from the courtyard, the fading drumbeats mixing with the distant calls of night birds. Soon, you find yourself beneath a towering baobab tree, its massive branches reaching out like ancient arms embracing the sky. Here, you meet Kwame, a historian who carefully lays out an array of Goldweights depicting scenes from everyday life, farmers tilling fields, women carrying water, children playing. A well-established fact, Goldweights often illustrated daily activities, serving as a visual diary of the social and economic life of the Akan people. Kwame points to a particularly intricate Goldweight showing a woman balancing a water pot on her head, a subtle nod to the graceful strength required in everyday chores. A quirky detail he shares is about a Goldweight shaped like a playful child with a mischievous grin, believed to symbolize the importance of joy and storytelling in passing down culture. Historians still debate the extent to which these depictions were idealized representations versus realistic portrayals of life. You listen to Kwame's soft voice as you imagine the rhythm of village life, the hum of work punctuated by bursts of laughter and whispered gossip. The baobab's quiet presence lends a timeless quality to the stories etched in bronze before you. Thanking Kwame, you continue beneath the starry canopy, the pulse of history steady beneath your feet. You follow a dusty path winding through tall grasses that whisper gently in the night breeze. Ahead, you come across a modest home where Efua, a respected elder and keeper of community stories, sits quietly spinning tales to a small group of children. Efua unfolds a cloth to reveal Goldweights shaped like mythical creatures, dragons, serpents, and birds woven from dreams and imagination. A historical fact here, many Goldweights incorporate mythical elements, blending folklore with everyday objects to communicate deeper cultural values. Efua smiles as she shows you a Goldweight shaped like a hornbill, said to be a messenger between the human and spirit worlds, a bird whose call carries secrets far and wide. A quirky tidbit she shares: one Goldweight looks like a tiny chameleon, shifting colors and meaning depending on who tells the story, much like gossip itself. Historians still debate whether these mythological Goldweights primarily served religious purposes or were more playful cultural artifacts. As Efua's voice lilts softly, the children's eyes sparkle with wonder, and you feel the magic of stories weaving a gentle spell around you. You thank Efua, stepping away with the echo of ancient myths wrapped warmly around your thoughts. The night deepens as you wander toward a bustling crossroads where traders from distant regions gather beneath flickering oil lamps. Here, you meet Nana, a shrewd merchant who boasts a collection of Goldweights shaped like exotic animals and foreign goods, symbols of far-flung trade. A historical fact: the Akan Goldweights reflect extensive trade networks reaching across West Africa and beyond, including contact with North Africa and even Europe. Nana chuckles, revealing a Goldweight shaped like a camel, an odd sight in these parts, reminding everyone of the long desert caravans that connected coastal markets to Saharan trade routes. A quirky detail: one Goldweight looks like a tiny, grinning hyena carrying a suitcase, symbolizing the humorous side of traveling merchants and the sometimes wild tales they bring home. Historians still argue how much the symbolism in these Goldweights shaped perceptions of foreign cultures versus actual trade dynamics. Nana's story spills softly into the night, a mix of fact and folklore, painting vivid scenes of bustling markets, whispered deals, and the steady flow of goods and gossip. You imagine the steady rhythm of trade routes, Goldweights clicking softly in pockets as merchants share news and newsmen share secrets. Thanking Nana, you continue your journey, the crossroads slowly fading into the gentle hum of the sleeping town. You leave the lively crossroads behind and step into a quiet compound where Ya, a skilled weaver, is methodically twisting threads on her loom. She lays out a series of Goldweights shaped like textiles, looms, and spools of thread, each capturing the art and labor behind the fabric of daily life. A historical fact: textile production was a vital industry in West Africa, with patterns and fabrics carrying significant cultural meaning. Ya shows you a Goldweight shaped like a narrow strip of cloth decorated with geometric motifs, symbolizing both fashion and identity in Akan society. A quirky tidbit: one Goldweight looks like a tiny pair of scissors with an exaggeratedly large handle, joking about the clumsiness of beginner weavers and the occasional snip that unravels hours of work. Historians still debate the extent to which Goldweights reflect the status of artisans versus the broader community's cultural values. As Ya's fingers deftly move, the soft click of her loom adds a soothing rhythm to your wandering thoughts. She explains how gossip and storytelling often passed through weaving circles, with each pattern whispering stories of love, conflict, and kinship. You thank Ya and let the quiet hum of her loom accompany you down the shaded path. Wrapped in the comfort of woven histories, you wander further into a lush garden where Kwabena, a gentle gardener, tends to rows of fragrant herbs and flowering plants. He shows you Goldweights shaped like leaves, flowers, and garden tools, each symbolizing growth, renewal, and the subtle cycles of nature. A historical fact: gardens and cultivated plants played a significant role in West African life, with many plants used for food, medicine, and rituals. Kwabena points out a Goldweight shaped like a hibiscus flower, admired not just for its beauty but also for its use in teas and traditional remedies. A quirky detail: one Goldweight depicts a tiny, sleepy snail, a humorous reminder of patience, both in gardening and gossip, where slow stories often bear the sweetest fruit. Historians still argue about how symbolic versus practical the representations of plants and gardening tools were in Goldweights. The scent of blooming flowers mingles with Kwabena's calm voice, creating a peaceful atmosphere as you imagine the gentle tending of earth and stories alike. You thank Kwabena and let the garden's tranquility settle over you, a quiet promise of growth and rest. The night carries you on to a cozy kitchen where a Kojua stirs a pot of fragrant stew, the air rich with spices and warmth. She carefully arranges Goldweights shaped like cooking utensils and familiar foods: yams, peppers, and palm nuts, each a small tribute to the sustenance of body and community. A well-known fact: food preparation and communal meals have long been central to social bonds in West African cultures. A Kojua grins, revealing a Goldweight shaped like a tiny, grinning pepper, an affectionate poke at how gossip can sometimes be as spicy as the food itself. A quirky tidbit: one Goldweight shows a mortar and pestle with little eyes, as if ready to grind up not just spices but juicy secrets. Historians still debate whether such kitchen-themed Goldweights symbolized daily life alone or held deeper ceremonial significance. As the stew simmers, the rhythmic clinking of pots blends with Akoshua's gentle voice, weaving a warm backdrop to your wandering thoughts. You imagine the kitchen as a heart of the home where stories, laughter, and gossip bubble alongside the cooking. Thanking Akoshua, you step back into the night, the lingering aroma of spices wrapping around your senses like a comforting blanket. You continue your slow stroll, drawn by the faint flicker of lantern light at a nearby workshop. Inside, Kwesi, a skilled metalworker, is quietly shaping Goldweights with delicate precision, his hammer tapping a soothing, rhythmic beat. A solid historical fact: the crafting of Goldweights required exceptional skill and was a respected profession among the Akan, blending artistry and practicality. Kwesi shows you a Goldweight shaped like a tiny anvil with an exaggerated handle, a playful tribute to the hard-working craftsmen who forged these intricate pieces. A quirky detail: one Goldweight resembles a miniature hammer with tiny wings, symbolizing how news and gossip can fly quickly once forged. Historians still argue whether the symbols on Goldweights served primarily practical, artistic, or social functions, or a combination of all three. The steady tapping blends with the night's calm, the sound lulling your thoughts into a gentle rhythm of creation and connection. You imagine the workshop as a quiet forge of not just metal but also of stories and secrets, hammered into small weights that carried big meanings. Thanking Kwesi, you step away into the cool night air, the echo of hammer taps fading like a soft heartbeat in the dark. You stroll further and find yourself near a small, bustling marketplace, where traders and townsfolk exchange goods and quiet whispers. Among the stalls, Amma, a seasoned storyteller and Goldweight collector, shares with you some particularly curious pieces shaped like animals involved in social gossip. A historical fact: many Goldweights feature animals known for their social behaviors, such as monkeys, hyenas, and birds, each symbolizing aspects of communication and rumor. Amma points to a Goldweight shaped like a monkey holding a small scroll, a symbol of messages carried through the grapevine in villages. A quirky tidbit: one Goldweight depicts a hyena wearing spectacles, perhaps hinting at the critical eye people cast when gossiping or judging neighbors. Historians still debate whether these animal symbols primarily served moral lessons or were simply light-hearted representations of everyday social life. Amma's stories weave softly through the hum of the market, making you smile at the timeless nature of community chatter. You imagine the lively exchanges, the subtle nods, the knowing glances that make gossip the pulse beneath the market's surface. Thanking Amma, you drift away, carrying the gentle rhythm of whispered stories into the quiet night. As you leave the marketplace, you find yourself by the edge of a calm river, where fishermen unload their nets beneath the shimmering moonlight. Here, Kofi, a quiet man with calloused hands, reveals Goldweights shaped like fish, boats, and water birds. A historical fact: rivers and waterways were essential trade and communication routes for the Akan people, integral to their economy and culture. Kofi points to a Goldweight shaped like a heron poised elegantly, symbolizing patience and watchfulness, qualities vital both in fishing and in gathering news. A quirky detail: one Goldweight shows a tiny, grinning fish wearing a crown, a cheeky nod to local tales about the king of the river who knows all secrets. Historians still debate whether such aquatic symbols had spiritual significance or were simply reflections of daily life. The gentle lapping of water mingles with Kofi's calm voice, creating a soothing soundtrack to your thoughts. You picture the river as a flowing thread, carrying goods, stories, and gossip alike through the heart of the community. Thanking Kofi, you move on, the river's soft murmur fading into the night's quiet hush. You wander toward a humble shrine tucked beneath ancient trees, where Nanaya, a revered priestess, tends to sacred rituals. She unveils a collection of Goldweights shaped like ritual objects, staffs, drums, and masks, each carrying spiritual significance. A well-known fact: rituals and ceremonies were integral to Akan life, often invoking ancestral spirits and community protection. Nanaya shows you a Goldweight shaped like a talking drum, its curves and dots reflecting the language rhythms used to send messages across villages. A quirky tidbit: one Goldweight resembles a tiny mask with a mischievous grin, symbolizing how even spirits might enjoy a bit of playful gossip. Historians still debate how much these ritual Goldweights influenced everyday social interactions versus remaining strictly sacred. The rhythmic beat of a distant drum blends with Nana Ya's soft chant, wrapping the night in a gentle, hypnotic calm. You imagine the shrine as a place where stories, prayers, and whispers mingle beneath the stars. Thanking Nanaya, you step quietly away, the echoes of drumbeats lingering like a warm heartbeat in the night. You follow a dusty path to a small village square where elders gather beneath the open sky, their voices low and warm as they share news and old tales. Among them is Kwaku, a respected storyteller who holds a pouch of Goldweights, each representing a piece of communal wisdom. A historical fact: storytelling was a vital tradition in West African cultures, preserving history, morals, and social norms through oral performance. Kwaku presents a Goldweight shaped like an open book, unusual in a largely oral culture, suggesting the evolving ways stories were treasured. A quirky detail: one Goldweight looks like a pair of spectacles perched on a tiny nose, a humorous nod to the elder's sharp observation skills, especially when gossip is involved. Historians still argue whether Goldweights functioned as mnemonic devices or purely as status symbols within storytelling circles. As Kwaku's tales weave through the evening air, you feel the power of words to connect generations. You imagine the circle, the flickering firelight, and the hush as secrets and lessons flow between listeners. Thanking Kwaku, you move on with the comforting hum of shared stories settling softly around you. You step into the cool shade of a bustling blacksmith's forge where Adu, the master smith, works patiently, sparks flying gently around him. He reveals Goldweights shaped like tools and weapons, each one a tiny masterpiece reflecting his craft and the community's defenses. A historical fact: blacksmiths were crucial in Akan societies, not only making tools and weapons but also holding a respected spiritual status. Adu laughs softly, showing you a Goldweight shaped like a tiny, slightly bent sword, a light-hearted poke at the quirks of old weapon-making traditions. A quirky tidbit: one Goldweight resembles a hammer with tiny musical notes floating around it, hinting at how the smith's rhythmic hammering might have served as a form of communication. Historians still debate how blacksmiths' social roles blended practical craftsmanship with mystical and social influence. The steady clink of hammer on metal creates a comforting cadence as Adu speaks about the forge's role in shaping both tools and tales. You imagine the forge as a hub where strength and stories melded, each strike ringing out a new chapter. Thanking Adu, you step back into the soft evening light, the warmth of the forge's glow still flickering in your mind. You wander into a quiet textile workshop where Abina, a skilled weaver, works with calm precision, her fingers dancing over threads dyed in deep indigo and vibrant ochre. She shows you Goldweights shaped like looms, spools of thread, and traditional cloth patterns. A historical fact: textiles were important in Akan culture, not only as clothing but as symbols of identity and social status. Abina smiles as she presents a Goldweight shaped like a tiny, tangled ball of yarn, a playful reminder that even the neatest stories can get tangled in gossip. A quirky detail: one Goldweight resembles a pair of scissors with googly eyes, as if snipping away at loose threads of rumor before they unravel too far. Historians still debate whether certain textile-themed Goldweights referenced specific weaving techniques or carried secret symbolic meanings. The soft rustle of fabric accompanies Abina's gentle voice, weaving together stories of cloth, culture, and connection. You imagine the workshop filled with the steady hum of weaving and whispered exchanges. Thanking Abina, you leave, the scent of indigo and fresh cotton lingering like a soft, familiar blanket. You find yourself by a serene garden where Ya, a herbalist, carefully tends to fragrant leaves and colorful flowers. She shows you Goldweights shaped like medicinal plants and herbs, each symbolizing healing and the quiet exchange of knowledge. A historical fact: herbal medicine was a cornerstone of health and healing in West African communities, passed down through generations. Ya offers a gold weight shaped like a tiny leaf with a smiling face, as if nature itself were in on the village's secrets. A quirky tidbit. One gold weight shows a pair of tiny hands holding a mortar and pestle, playfully hinting at how mixing herbs could be akin to blending stories. Historians still debate the extent to which herbal symbols in gold weights held spiritual significance beyond their practical use. The gentle scent of herbs mingles with Ya's soft explanation, wrapping you in a calming, natural embrace. You picture the garden as a sanctuary where healing and whispers grow side by side. Thanking Ya, you step back, the fresh scent trailing behind you like a quiet promise of renewal. You wander into a humble kitchen where Efua, a seasoned cook, stirs a pot of fragrant stew over a low fire. She proudly displays gold weights shaped like cooking utensils and traditional dishes, each representing the flavors and rituals of everyday life. A historical fact, food was deeply intertwined with social rituals in Akan culture, symbolizing hospitality and community bonds. Efua hands you a gold weight shaped like a tiny wooden spoon, its handle worn smooth as if passed through many hands sharing countless meals. A quirky detail, one gold weight depicts a miniature pot with a tiny spoon sticking out, looking almost ready to spill its secrets, much like gossip at a communal feast. Historians still debate whether culinary-themed gold weights served mainly decorative purposes or encoded social messages about sharing and hospitality. The warm aroma of spices and simmering food fills the air, blending with Efua's gentle voice to create a cozy atmosphere. You imagine the kitchen alive with soft chatter, the clinking of pots, and the comfort of shared stories around the fire. Thanking Efua, you step away, carrying the warmth of the hearth and its stories with you into the night. You meander to a quiet corner of the village where children play a game involving small, smooth stones and pebbles. Nana Kofi, a patient teacher, shows you gold weights shaped like these tiny game pieces, symbolizing childhood and learning. A historical fact, traditional games were an important part of social education in Akan societies, teaching strategy, patience, and social roles. Nana Kofi grins as he presents a gold weight shaped like a laughing child, capturing the joy and mischief of youth. A quirky tidbit, one gold weight features a tiny pebble with a face, winking as if it's in on the secret of childhood pranks and whispered rumors. Historians still debate whether certain gold weights represented specific games or if they more broadly symbolized innocence and community. The soft laughter of children echoes in your mind as Nana Kofi's calm voice blends with the quiet evening breeze. You picture the children's game as a microcosm of village life, strategy, cooperation, and the inevitable spreading of news. Thanking Nana Kofi, you drift away, the playful spirit of youth lingering gently in the air. You stroll down a quiet street where the smell of freshly baked bread wafts from a small bakery. Amma, the baker, pulls from a basket a collection of gold weights shaped like loaves, ovens, and wheat sheaves, each symbolizing nourishment and daily routine. A historical fact, bread and grain-based foods were staples in many West African diets, often prepared communally and carrying cultural importance. Amma laughs softly, revealing a gold weight shaped like a tiny oven with a smiling face, as if the bread itself enjoyed the warmth of its baking. A quirky detail, one gold weight resembles a loaf with a bite taken out, playfully hinting at how gossip can sometimes leave stories a little chewed up. Historians still debate how much daily objects like bread loaves and gold weights carried symbolic meaning beyond their practical use. The scent of baking mingles with Amma's soft words, creating a cozy, inviting atmosphere that feels like a warm hug. You imagine the bakery as a hub for morning chatter, the rise and fall of dough mirroring the rhythms of village life. Thanking Amma, you continue on, the smell of fresh bread lingering like a gentle, comforting memory. You find yourself near the riverbank where fishermen mend their nets under the fading light. Kofi, an elder fisherman, presents gold weights shaped like fish, boats, and nets, reflecting the community's bond with water and the daily rhythm of the catch. A historical fact, fishing was a vital livelihood for many Akan communities, providing sustenance and trade goods. Kofi smiles as he shows a gold weight shaped like a fish with a cheeky grin, as if it knows all the watery secrets and gossip shared on the river. A quirky tidbit, one gold weight looks like a tiny boat with a flag waving, a silent signal of the fishermen's tales carried downstream. Historians still debate the extent to which aquatic-themed Goldweights held spiritual meaning connected to river deities versus practical symbolism. The gentle splash of water and the murmur of the river blend with Kofi's calm voice, soothing and steady. You imagine the river as a flowing storyteller, carrying news and whispers along its currents. Thanking Kofi, you step away, the sound of water softly fading like a lullaby. You walk into a quiet market stall where a jeweler, delicately polishes gold rings and beads. She carefully shows you Goldweights shaped like jewelry, bracelets, and ornate pendants, symbols of beauty, wealth, and personal stories. A historical fact, jewelry in Akan culture was more than decoration, it was a language of status, identity, and sometimes secret messages. Ajoa chuckles, presenting a Goldweight shaped like a tiny necklace with a hidden clasp, an inside joke about how gossip can be worn close to the heart. A quirky detail, one Goldweight is shaped like a pair of earrings, with tiny smiling faces as if they could whisper secrets directly into the wearer's ear. Historians still debate whether certain jewelry-themed Goldweights were purely symbolic or had ritualistic uses. The soft gleam of gold catches the fading light as Ajoa's voice gently blends with the quiet hum of the evening market. You imagine the delicate dance of light on metal, much like the subtle play of stories and secrets exchanged here. Thanking Ajoa, you step back into the cooling night, carrying the sparkle of shared history with you. As night deepens, you find yourself in a peaceful courtyard where elders gather to share stories beneath a sky full of stars. Here, the golden glow of lanterns dances over a final set of Goldweights shaped like stars, moons, and ancient symbols, reminders of the cosmos watching over the community. A historical fact, Akan spirituality often linked celestial bodies with guidance, fate, and the rhythm of life. One Goldweight catches your eye, a tiny crescent moon cradling a sleepy face, as if inviting you to rest and dream alongside the ancestors. A quirky detail, another Goldweight shows a star with a mischievous grin, hinting at the playful nature of storytelling and gossip under the night sky. Historians still debate how deeply celestial motifs in Goldweights tied to religious beliefs versus everyday symbolism. The soft murmur of voices and the gentle night breeze create a lullaby as the stories wind down. You feel a gentle calm spreading through you, the stars above softly illuminating your journey through time and tales. As you close your eyes, the golden threads of history, gossip, and Goldweights weave gently into your dreams, a quiet echo of a world where stories and symbols live on. Now, as the night settles softly around you, let the gentle hum of these tales ease your thoughts. Imagine the warm glow of lanterns fading slowly, the laughter and whispers blending into a soothing silence. Feel the comforting weight of history resting lightly on your mind, inviting you to drift deeper into rest. With every breath, the golden symbols soften, becoming shadows in your dreams, guiding you into peaceful sleep. Let the rhythm of the village slow to a whisper, carrying you gently toward a calm, renewing slumber. May these stories, born from the heart of West Africa, wrap around you like a soft blanket, and may your dreams be as rich and warm as the Goldweights themselves.
Thank you so much for listening to tonight's story. If you enjoyed this gentle journey through the past, we'd love it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to the Dozing Historian. It helps us keep making cozy, sleepy history content, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drifts in. Sleep well, and we'll see you next time.